Alrighty, welcome to episode 175 of Tokwa's Ask Us Anything. As usual, it's been a pretty busy news week. Following on from rebuking the Federal Chamber of Automotive Industry's disinformation campaign, Tesla's head Tom Drew has resigned from the board of the FCAI, and Tesla will cease continuing to be a financial member of the FCAI once their membership renewal falls due at the end of this financial year. In addition to these moves, Tesla has also referred the FCAI to the ACCC, accusing it of anti-competitive behaviour arising out of its bogus claims. Western Australia's WAEV network has further progressed, with Synergy's 150 kilowatt Kempower fast DC charger site at Kalgoorlie now commissioned and open for all EVs to use. This brings the total number of stations currently active to 28 out of the final project plan of 49 sites. Western Australia's WAEV network has further progressed, with Synergy's 150 kilowatt Kempower fast DC charger site at Margaret River now commissioned and open to all EVs to use. This brings the total number of stations currently active to 29 out of the final project plan of 49 sites. And that was this week's news. Indeed it was, and welcome everyone to Ask Us Anything. As is customary, if there is anyone who is new and is comfortable in doing so, please unmute yourself and say hello.
Hi everyone, this is Edmund.
Welcome, Edmund.
Recently took delivery of the Model 3 rear-wheel drive. It's been a long, painful wait. We initially ordered in mid of November. We got the delivery date for the Feb of the 16th, but due to a rear glass crack, we were pushed back twice. But finally, we managed to get the car. But interestingly enough, during the 3 weeks itself, Tesla actually loaned us a Model 3 dual motor. Man, that vehicle is really, really fast. I'm like, whoa. But I'm stuck with the rear-wheel drive. I'm pretty happy with it, and I'm glad that my first EV is a Tesla.
Well, congratulations. And look, Edmund, there is a bit of light at the end of the tunnel. No doubt you have another vehicle in the family, so you can always just go to be a 2 EV family. It's really easy. So that gives you something else to aspire to later on.
Okay.
But congratulations nonetheless. And
Thank you.
yeah, sorry to hear about your fraught experience. Sometimes these things just happen, and the main thing is you've got your awesome car now and you're enjoying it.
Yes.
Fantastic. Alrighty, is there anyone else that is new that would like to unmute and say hello? Clark, go.
Thanks, Harold. Good evening, Harold and everyone. My name's Clark Ewens. I'm about to collect a Tesla probably by the end of the month. And so since the order went in, I've joined up all these groups and everything. And the funny story is actually picking up in Adelaide and driving it back with my son across the Nullarbor about a few days after we pick it up. So it'll be a true experience. Thank you very much.
No worries. And well, congratulations on your impending awesome first road trip. There's nothing like a baptism of fire to gird the loins. Look, in fact, what we'll do is, well, actually, you can ring tomorrow on 62623131. That's Tokwa's helpline number, and we can certainly show you all the way to get across the Nullarbor. And in fact, if we've got a little bit of time later this evening, in the next 2 hours, we can go through a very brief overview. The good news is these days it's actually pretty easy.
I appreciate that, Harold. Thanks.
No worries. All right, let's go for the trifecta. Is there anyone else that is new and would like to unmute and say hello? Perhaps a little bit later on, so that's cool. Now, just a couple of housekeeping things in the news, and I'm just going to try and get this image up. I mentioned the 150 kilowatt Kempower site at Margaret River. It is, and I've got to admit that I actually wrote that script on Monday, but it is actually a dual Kempower site. Now, one of the units, which is this left-hand one, which is the one to the west or the closest to the cafe next door, is a 150 kilowatt unit. And the one that is closer to the RAC tritium charger is a 75 kilowatt unit. So the reason why I want to highlight that is if you arrive and there's no one there, definitely go to the left hand or the westerly charger, because you'll get a faster charge initially, or you get a faster charge in almost all circumstances, unless your battery is quite at a quite high state of charge. If there are if there's a car in the left bay already, then just plug into the right hand one, because you'll get 75 kilowatts. But by all means, have a look at the car on the other charger, and if it is charging at a quite low rate of charge, which you can see on the screen, then by all means plug into that one, because you'll get a faster charge. It's just one of these interesting sort of configurations. One charger is 150 kilowatts, the other one is 75. You can also see on the screen, on the actual Kempower screen, you'll show above each nozzle what the potential maximum charging rate is. And like I said, if you forget, then you can just look on the screen and pick the best one in your circumstance.
But at one level, it's kind of fine not to overthink it, you know. But broadly, the further east you go, the charges get slower.
That's very true, Ken. And yeah. I didn't want to. This is actually, yes. So this is a very unique situation, which probably will not occur in human history. But if you look, you see, you know, there's a BYD Atto, there's a Model 3, there's another Model 3, and a dishevelled Model Y. But actually, there is a Nissan Leaf out in the environment, charging on the only CHAdeMO connector in Margaret River. So there you go. You've got 4 EVs and a Leaf charging simultaneously at Margaret River.
Now, it's
Yes.
an EV.
It's an EV too. It really is. So is my black and white TV is really a TV.
Yeah. And if you get completely stuck after the tritium, there's also a single phase type 2 as well at that site.
Yes, there is. Absolutely. Oh, and by the way, and don't fret too much if you really do get stuck at the what's it called? Margaret River Village, Margaret's Village,
Yeah.
something Village, Woolworths. Say again, Pete.
Village at Margs.
Yeah.
Village at Margs. There's a medium-powered version 3 250 kilowatt triple outlet supercharger and 2 destination chargers. So
going back on what you just said before, just go to the supercharger.
Precisely. And look, and please do, because let's leave the WAV network for other EVs, because Margaret River is not open to all EVs, is it? I don't think it is.
Yeah, it is. No, Margaret River.
Oh, it is. Oh, sorry, it is. Oh, okay, great.
I've charged my brother's Polestar at Margaret River on the superchargers.
Oh, very good. Okay, now just another couple of things, because we know, unfortunately, most people that watch us on YouTube only get to the juicy bits at the start and possibly the awesome outro that Pete and I do the same every week. We are not going to have an Ask Us Anything next week. We are going to have a casual meetup. So that is next Wednesday, the 20th of March, at a venue to be determined. But by all means, please do comment below on YouTube, or even right now, if you like, you can put a list up on the chat. And if it's a good spot, probably looking for somewhere more easterly this time, because the last meetup was southerly and the one before that was northerly. So possibly something not too far from the city, because it's an evening, but perhaps a little bit easterly. So there will be a casual meetup next Wednesday. And another couple of bits of news. Today was the date that there was expected to be a Western Power outage at the WAEV network site at Albany. And no surprise, that was so that Tesla could start commissioning or have power to start commissioning the Albany supercharger site, 6-stall supercharger site. Rather disappointingly, to put it mildly, in less than 24 hours before that outage was due to occur, Western Power cancelled it. So it goes without saying that that would have been at great inconvenience, not just with personnel, but financial inconvenience to Tesla. Now, there are 2 new outages that are currently planned. The first one is on the 20th of March, which is next Wednesday, and then there is another outage planned on the 22nd of March on Friday. So please be aware that if you are in the Albany area, depending on what time it is, and it's not known exactly the time when they start and end during those 2 days, but the WAEV network in Albany will be offline, the whole of it. So please be aware of that. The good news is that some days or a week or so or whatever after that, the Albany supercharger will be brought online, as will the Kojonup supercharger site, which is Australia's first all caravan compatible 6 charger site, 4 superchargers and the dual Kempower or 1 Kempower with 2 slots. And they will be universally caravan and trailer friendly, which is a great achievement.
What was the date you had for those ones?
The dates for the Albany outages
for Kojonup. For Kojonup, when Kojonup comes on.
I don't know precisely, but it'd probably be before the Easter holidays.
Excellent news. Excellent news.
It is. Actually, yeah. So, well, having said that, are there any questions or comments about any of that? Just while I try and look for an image.
While you're looking for the photo, Harold, just wanted to say a quick thank you to everyone that came to Sacred Heart, the Cars on the Coast, last weekend. It was a great success. Thank you very much to Shane for bringing 3 vehicles down. That's got to be a record. Well, it should really be 3.5 because one of those vehicles should count for 2. It takes up at least 2 parking spots. So, yeah, Shane brought it down his caravan, which he took around Australia with Sarah. So, and Sarah brought it down her BYD Edo 3 as well as the Model 3 that towed it around Australia. Plus, Ken was there with his car, Robin, as per usual. I'm going to forget a lot of people because there was about was it
10 in the end?
I think
10 or 11? Yeah,
was it 10? Yeah,
I think we had 11 actually, Ken.
Yeah, right.
Last count. So yeah, Paul was there. Ken, who am I forgetting? Alex, James. So yeah, a lot of the
Jason with his new 3.
Yeah, with the Highland. Yeah, so there was 2 Highlands that came out of nowhere. So that was great to see. So yeah, I was fretting about not having a Highland there, and we ended up having 3.
And the best part was Jane not only bought his caravan, he bought bacon. So it was.
oh yeah.
And
solar bacon
power, so it's a win-win-win.
I do believe I taught a few people how to make a bacon and egg sandwich, eh? They're pretty good done like that, aren't they?
They taste better on solar power.
No doubt.
Yep.
I don't think it's the solar power, Pete. It's another trick I do.
I don't want to know.
Very good, and congratulations, and yeah, big thanks and shout out to everyone that made it to Sacred Heart. That's a fantastic effort of the EV community and TOCWA in particular. So many thanks to that, everyone that participated. These are the images of the Kojonup combined Tesla and WAEV network site. So you can see here, these are the stalls. So basically my car would be where the third stall is, and there'd be another car here. And then this is where the Kempower unit goes. And if I just change angles, this is looking down the supercharger stalls, and at the end is where the Kempower is, and the reverse angle, again, Kempower here, supercharger stalls all in line. And these two pads here and this one here, they are going to be light poles. So this is going to be a well lit and very well provisioned for site. And in fact, I believe it's an Australian first. Six EVs, all towing trailers or caravans, can all charge comfortably simultaneously. And I guess it goes without saying that if all of the sites were like that, it'd be rather good.
I'll race you there, Harold.
Hey, Harold, you know what I'm
got a
thinking?
caravan though.
I'm thinking we should-
He's still shopping.
No, I've got one. I bought one. But go, Pete, what were you saying?
I'm thinking we should, around the opening, we should get 6 Teslas or 6 EVs with trailers and go down to Kojana.
Absolutely. There's a road trip we need to organise.
Yeah, well, I've already got mine, so I'm all set. So
So you got the pop-up. Excellent.
I got the pop-up. It was the only one that was really made sense. Now, last week I did obviously mention that the full height one, the Winton 10, really is not fit for purpose. And then I forget the gentleman's name. They actually put a comment, and I meant to reply to it in last week's program. I should have actually elaborated on what I said. It's not fit for purpose currently in Western Australia. So where we've got long gaps between charges and sometimes no fast DC charges, you just can't lug around a block of flats behind your awesomely sleek Model Y or 3. But on the eastern seaboard, where fast DC charges, including superchargers, are ubiquitous, then it obviously makes you can tow up, I don't know, a land yacht, and it'll be perfectly okay because there'll be a supercharger or something in the next 80 Ks. But in WA, it's just not quite yet ready. But yeah, anyway, so I got my caravan, so I'm all set. So Shane, I'll race you down there. And anyone else that's got trailers, Rob Dean's got a trailer.
I've got a trailer. I'm in.
I'm going to say something really controversial, and it's not because I hate Nissan Leafs. They're great. I hate Nissan because they shafted all their owners. But James Maitland, you've got a Nissan Leaf, and Rob Dean's got a big trailer. Wouldn't it be awesome if we could
It
tow
would be
a
awesome,
Nissan
and I've
Leaf?
already thought about it, but it's over the GVM. It's 2,000. The lightest trailer I can get is 2,200. So it's
Richard
over
Chapman. Welcome,
Yeah, I was going to say,
welcome.
Richard.
Richard Chapman has a Model X, which I just
do.
so happen knows can tow 2.25 tons.
Sure,
Because-
can, and I'm up for it if I'm available.
Yeah.
And
Don't
sorry,
hire the big U-Haul. You've got to get the
not to mention-
smaller.
When, I'd love to. Get me involved.
James, meet Richard James.
Yeah.
Actually, I've got a Land Cruiser troop carrier that I wouldn't mind getting carried down that way around about Easter time.
It's a bit
Wouldn't that
heavy,
be
isn't
cool?
it?
I don't
It's
know. I don't know. You go close.
Well, I think there's just a little bit of poetic. It's just a bit poetic
Yeah.
to have a Nissan Leaf being towed to the nearest charger for which there are no CHAdeMO outlets.
No, I looked into it because I wanted to take one down to one of the EV meets, but with the trailer, it's over the legal limit. But it's 1,567 curb weight. And then you add another 300, 400 kilos for a trailer.
Anyway, let's put that on we'll put that on the front burner as a possibility. It would look fantastic, albeit very ironic. All right, moving right along. Have we got any questions or comments? And especially from anyone who is new to their Tesla experience.
Harold, I'm not that new. I've come in with a couple of questions before. It's Jonathan. Jonathan.
It's Jonathan.
Dixie. Hi. Did anyone else have any trouble with the Bluetooth walk away feature during the hot weather?
Yes. No,
Oh, okay.
last
that's
week, both
interesting.
my cars.
Okay.
I thought it was the
yeah,
last update.
Oh, it was to do with the update. I thought it was the hot weather. Hello?
Is Harold gone?
Yeah, no, James,
Oh.
you're back.
Yep.
Oh, you might have
Yeah, sorry.
you might have some crappy comms. Sorry, go ahead, James.
I just assumed it was the last update. We had to reset the key because we couldn't get in, couldn't get out, and wouldn't lock.
So I had a problem just during the hot weather.
Yeah.
I couldn't get the car to move. I could manually unlock the door using
Yeah.
the phone app, but when I got into the car, I needed the card to get the thing going. It just went on for a couple of days, and since the weather's cooled down, it's got completely better.
My
No,
wife,
my wife and I both had it on 2 separate days, consecutive days. It was just after an update, so we just assumed it was an update thing, and then it's gone away.
Oh, okay. Anybody else?
My wife, in her excuse me, in her Y, couldn't unlock or do anything with her phone key. She tried to delete the app, reinstall it. I think she logged out and logged back. She logged out of it, logged back into it, wouldn't work. She had to use her card to do anything. Then I think she then deleted the app, logged back into it, and then it was okay. So
Interesting. Thank you. Yeah.
But perhaps, as James said, it might have been after a software update, and that might have done something. And it sounds to me like not many people experienced that issue, but obviously some did.
Okay, cool. Well, we've had a few updates in the last couple of weeks, haven't we?
Indeed, and speaking of updates, there's a new one coming. It was spoken about more in the sense of in Europe, they're going to get their matrix LEDs activated. We probably won't in Australia, but the other very good mention was that you will be able to do a one-time charge boost. So imagine you normally, now this only applies to those with long-range cars, new long-range cars, where you normally would charge to 80% for a daily basis, and then occasionally 100 or something else for trips. And one of the biggest pains was in the past that if you wanted to charge 100%, you would slide to 100%, you charge, go on your road trip, and then when you get to your destination, you might forget to lower the charge rate back to, say, 80%. You plug in at your holiday chalet or whatever it is, and you wake up in the morning and you realize that your car's at 100%, and that's not ideal. So apparently Tesla are going to introduce like a charge boost function where if you slide it up, it'll just boost it, but then revert back to its prior setting once charging is finished, which is another brilliant idea. Yep. So, but I think that'll probably come to us with the next software update. I think it's whatever .8 as a last digit, which would be great. Alrighty, sorry, Brad, you've got your hand up patiently.
Yep. Thanks. Yes, we got the new Highlander about 2 weeks ago, so loving it. Taking a while to get used to the indicators on the steering wheel, and a bit of a technique required for going around roundabouts. But yeah, you can sort it out. You just got to prepare a little bit, I guess. But one thing I'm finding is a little bit frustrating is with the air conditioning. 23.5 is warm and 23 is cold. There's nothing in between. And I put it on auto and I have it on manual, but I get the both. 23 comes out really cold as normal. You go to, and you think, oh, I just want to ease it off a little bit. You go up to 23.5 and it comes out warm. So.
Is this first thing in the morning, or is this sort of even during the day?
Anytime.
And it's noticeably warm. At
Yeah,
above 23.
not hot, but warm. And it's frustrating. I'm just flicking between the two because I can't find a happy medium. So,
Can you try leaving on 23.5 just for a few minutes, just to check that it stays pumping out warmish air, or whether it might settle down? Because sometimes when you change temperature, it might be a bit eager to please, and therefore try and get to that temperature quickly. So if you go from a lower temperature to a higher one, it'll sort of invoke heating just to get it to that set point. But if that still persists, just log it in your Tesla app for as a service issue, because that's, look, I don't think anyone in the room has ever really experienced that, where it literally is a 0.5 degree split between feeling warm air and feeling cold air. That's
okay.
It might, I dare say that maybe that's just a minor issue of some sort, perhaps.
We received it with a scratch on, so it has to go back next week, and they got to replace a panel. So I'll get them to have a look at that at the same time.
Well, what you should do is actually go into if you've logged that service call through your Tesla app, go back into the service appointment and add another issue.
Oh, okay.
And then just it'll be under interior and HVAC, and just describe what you're experiencing. And sometimes they can actually diagnose issues, if there are issues, remotely. So they might be able to say, oh, we know what that is, if it's a known thing, or they can then log it to investigate when you drop the car off.
Harold, I'm mindful of Ramesh with his hand up, but what was the outside temperature when you were doing that?
28, 29. Yeah. But
I know if it matches the outside, it gets confused about whether it needs to heat you.
Yes, I was thinking of that also, but no, there's about 5-6 degree variance.
Yeah. Thanks.
So do you normally keep it on auto, and it should just stay at yes?
Yes. Okay. So what you should do, well, what I do personally is leave it on auto. You can, even though it's on auto, override the recirculate, so you can sort of enforce it. I mean, usually it's best to leave, if you're out in the bush, let the car decide whether it's recirculate or fresh air, just for efficiency. But I mean, personally, around town, I prefer to have recirculated air, so there's less fresh air coming in, with less petrol fumes and whatever. And also, you can then set the fan speed between low, medium, and high. And I don't know about everyone else, but personally, I always put on high because it's not that high. So auto, high fan, and you can do optionally recirculate.
Yeah, okay.
And if you want to ever reset it back to true defaults on auto, just force auto off and then re-invoke it.
Right. Okay.
And then it should do its normal automatic recirculate if necessary, or fresh air.
Yeah. Okay. Excellent.
Ramesh, you've got your hand up.
Opportunity. Can you remember 2 weeks back we discussed about the delayed order, like they had a steering wheel fault and then Tesla postponed our delivery. So just wanted to give kind of an update. So the week we spoke, the delivery didn't happen. So that also further delayed. But finally we received the car last week. So yeah. Now we are enjoying almost a week, and so far we have done nearly more than 600 kilometers.
Very good. Excellent. Yeah. Excellent. Yeah. Well, it's great to hear that they eventually replaced the unit, so that's great. And I'm sure they were happy to get the loan car back too. So
yeah, and apparently it wasn't a Tesla. I had a Camry, but yeah, and even the service team they dropped us back to when I returned in my own car, they dropped me back to the delivery center and not even asked me to hire Uber. So very supportive team.
Yeah, cool. Oh, well, that's great, and congratulations on your great purchase. It's slightly later than ideal, but you got there in the end. And I presume you're, having done 600 Ks, you're really happy with your car?
Yeah, like almost every moment we enjoying. And tonight we're gonna try our first supercharge at Kogi. It's just a trial, how it's gonna work, kind of thing.
Fantastic. Pro tip, if you've got a fairly low state of charge, navigate to the pin. So on your navigate screen, you can actually hit the lightning button on the it's the upper left-hand corner of the screen, but it's the lower part of that section, and there's a little, it looks like a lightning bolt. If you tap on that, it'll bring up a list of nearby chargers, including the superchargers, and then click on the Coogee pin and go navigate to. And what that'll do is it will precondition your battery. So it'll heat your battery up to an optimum temperature, depending on how far away you are. It might not have enough time to do it properly.
Yeah, like I'm 15 minutes away from the charger.
That's good. So it'll probably start heating straight away. And then, you can suss it out.
Good.
Just one tip also, if you don't see that menu on the left-hand side of the screen, just click anywhere on the screen and you'll notice that menu will pop up. And then on the bottom of that menu, you'll see that lightning bolt button that Harold's talking about.
Good. I'll try. Thanks.
There's actually another way to do it as well. You can go into navigate and then there's a sub-menu called charging. So that's another.
So I have seen kind of an icon, and as soon as I press that icon, all the chargers popped up. So I can't remember. I have seen that.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
Yeah, so like Pete said, unfortunately, those little icons don't persist on the navigate screen. But if you just tap lightly anywhere on the screen, on that map area or the satellite area, depending on what view you have, then it will appear.
Yeah, good. Do that. Thanks.
Awesome. I just noticed. Oh, so no, it's okay. All right. Anyone else got any other questions or comments?
Hello.
Good. Welcome.
How you going? It's my very first time. Joined the group probably 2 months ago, but this is the first time I've been on. And I purchased a second-hand Model 3 2020, and I've just picked up the new Highlander as well.
So boots and all, that's fantastic.
So on just a quick question, more to do with the group. When you decide where to arrange your meetups, how do you go about that? Have you done any down south, like you were talking about Margaret River when I came in earlier?
Nothing deeply south, but we're certainly more than happy to do that, even if it's actually a discrete one for most people, mostly down south. So, so Kurt, you're in the Margaret River area or similar?
No. So I actually live in Mandurah, but my partner runs a winery with 2 chargers at the winery in Yellingup, and her boss, who owns the winery, has just also picked up his first new Tesla ever on last week when I picked mine up. So it's a kind of an offer, something to look at in the future. Is that using it as a venue for one of your meets?
Yeah, sure. Ironically, there was actually a casual meetup. I think our last one was in Mandurah. So
yeah, I saw it, and I was actually working that day. I believe you had it at the Oyster Bar or somewhere near there in
the Boardwalk.
Boardwalk, yeah.
Yeah, so that's the furthest south we've gone so far, but there are a few other little road trips and things in the offing. So that is something that we're definitely looking at. But we'll certainly.
I'm happy to if you want to contact me at some point, because the venue would be more than happy, and especially with our boss now having one to host an event of some description. If you want to discuss that and.
So you mentioned Yellingup. So is that Artisan? No, it wouldn't be Artisan Chalets. Sorry, is that Will's Domain, or is that?
Keep going.
Arvina Estate, or is that the House of Cards Wine?
House of Cards was the closest. No, Swings and Roundabouts. They've got 2 Porsche
Swings and Roundabouts. Yes, actually, according to PlugShare, it's under repair.
So what happened, obviously I know intimate details about it. It's just an issue like a lot of places down south have with the power on site. So they have issues with when both charge on at the same time until they do they're waiting for an upgrade from Western Power or for them to agree an upgrade. But say they installed 2 brand new Pulse chargers probably 2 or 3 years ago. And what they have to do now, and it's another offer on whilst I'm on this group, if anyone, there it is, if anyone's going down there, I'm happy to share my number. Obviously, my partner's a general manager. Look, if you have any issues, you can give me a call and I can arrange that, those chargers to be switched on. But they will go both chargers fully on when the upgrades are done via Western Power. And
given Western Power's notorious reputation for not doing things on time, do you get a timeline for that?
It's not really Western Power. They just need to agree, and then the actual venue needs to upgrade its power supply to cope with, because the venue's constantly being renewed, and they're doing more development because they're looking at putting in accommodation there as well. So it's a case of going through that process for Western Power to agree, and then them to put in the extra power that's required. I think that's probably a lot of the problem with a lot of people in those kind of more sort of off the main line areas, that their power supply isn't particularly great.
Yeah, no worries. Well, I'll tell you what, if you just give me a call on 62623131 once that's all been finalised, then we're certainly happy to give it a look. But obviously it would be counterproductive to turn up when it's not fully operational.
No, that's correct.
So, and look, and the good thing about that neck of the woods is Margaret River is only a couple of dozen kilometres south, and you've got basically 3 version 3 supercharger stalls. You've got 2 150 kilowatt. Well, sorry, you got the 2 Kempower units for the WEV network just around the corner, and you've even got an RAC.
And there's a couple, I believe, in Dunsborough. That's where my partner is. I think there's a couple. Is it Charge Fox? I believe. Actually in Dunsborough as well.
It's the RAC. It's the RAC. Yeah. So, and that's a good comment to sort of address. Unfortunately, a lot of people presume that there's this mythical thing called the ChargeFox network of chargers, and it's not. It's actually the ChargeFox billing network of chargers owned by anyone except for them. So ChargeFox quite clearly state that they own none of the chargers. So, for example, the WEV network is accessed either using a tap-as-you-go credit card casually on their payment terminal, or you can choose to use ChargeFox as the billing system, for which you need to have an account with a verified credit card and either use their app, or now it's for $10 purchase an RFID card from ChargeFox, or provide your own that you can then enter the details of that into their system. But ChargeFox is not actually the network of chargers. It's simply a billing operator that provides billing access to those chargers.
So you'll have to forgive me my sort of technical ignorance, but a question I've got, because I live in Mandurah, I've got the Tesla charger fitted to the house. I also have a holiday accommodation which I offer free for guests. Now, what's the option for me also adding an additional, because I believe Tesla do a solar charger. Is that correct?
No, not quite. If you have a Tesla Powerwall and a Tesla wall connector, then and that Powerwall has a gateway, which I think most of them do, but not necessarily all of them, then you can invoke a charge on solar, whereby you set a percentage of your battery. So you may set a minimum threshold, say you always want your battery at least 50% charged, but you're happy to only charge more than 50% if there is surplus power that would otherwise go to the grid that can be rediverted into your car while it's connected to your wall connector at home or at work or anywhere for that matter.
So what the idea behind my question is, I have the maximum amount of solar panels for domestic use on the roof, I'm not technical enough to integrate that system with the system to tell me when I'm charging. However, I have lots of north-facing roof space, and I was wondering if there was a standalone system where I could purchase more panels that went straight to a charger.
Yes. So, and without getting into brands, although I guess really this is the most commonly known off-grid, because mind you, Western Power will not allow you to connect any more grid interactive, or another grid interactive solar system to your house without their explicit permission. And in fact, it's not permitted to do that legally. So, and I'm not going to recommend this is what you should do, because I just don't think the economics are going to stack up for it. But you could, for example, perfectly legitimately install a standalone inverter, battery storage. Well, you could probably go inverter, just standalone inverter with solar, and then have that charge your battery, your car's battery. Problem is, it's going to be expensive. I know Victron does it. I think Richard Chapman, I think it was Solar Edge, but I don't know if that's off grid. It might still be grid interactive. Look, I know Victron does it, but it's going to cost you a fair bit of money. And then the big question is, what's the point in spending probably thousands of dollars for free energy that you have to get by first stumping up thousands of dollars up front?
So I take it by that there's none of the government rebates will come into play when it comes to that type of system. Is that?
To my
No,
knowledge.
that's not true. You'll still get your STCs with your panels, as long as your DC to AC ratio is within limits, within the CEC limits, the Clean Energy Council's limits. But yeah, like Harold said, economically, it's just not going to be worth it.
Again, excuse my ignorance. So to have someone come in and install panels which connect straight for the sole purpose of charging is expensive.
Yes.
Okay.
Because it has to be off grid, because you cannot have it. You can apply. I presume you've got 6.6 kilowatts of panels and a 5 kilowatt inverter at the moment.
Correct. Yeah.
Right. So why don't you do this? Go to some of the solar providers and say. So hang on 2 seconds, Pete. So why don't you go to one of your favourite solar providers and go, I want to go Hollywood on my house. I want to burn as much solar as I possibly can, and I want you to apply for the most you think that Western Power will accept, and then see what they say. But they're likely to say, I'm really sorry, for the area you live in, what you have is all you can get, connected to the grid. Your next choice and only other choice for legally using solar in your house is to have a separate panels and inverter system that is not connected to the grid in any way. And then that charges your car directly via that single source.
But then that wouldn't be eligible for any subsidy. Is that what you're saying? Because I obviously had the subsidy when I fitted the original solar to the house. Is it that standalone wouldn't generate any subsidy?
Subsidies or not, either way, it's just not going to be economic. The question is, are you on single or three-phase power?
Three-phase.
Yeah, you'll be able to go. You'll definitely be able to go, or not definitely. Depends on the transformer that services your property, but you'll most likely be able to go at least to an 8.2 kilowatt inverter, which means that with an 8.2, you can probably put roughly about 11 kilowatts. Let me just quickly work that out. 10.93 kilowatts. And if you put in a battery, you can go even more. But that's the minimum you should be able to go to through what's called a automated approval process. And then you can, if you want more, you may be able to get more just by doing a application to Western Power.
So again, not knowing a lot about this, but because I have a holiday home at the rear of this property, which obviously I advertise for guests to charge their property free, then I suppose I have to ask them the question, but you may know, could I then slip into the commercial category?
No, not necessarily. So you're, do you know what your consumption is?
As in my electricity bills, you mean?
Yes, all
They're
up.
still quite high, even though I've got, you know, maximum panels and a 5 kilowatt inverter. That's why I was kind of, and with, you know, I live literally on the coast with so much roof space, north facing. It's phenomenal on the main house and the holiday property behind.
Is your holiday property on a different meter,
sure.
or is it a sub meter?
No, it's a sub meter, so it's the same meter. So yeah, it's the same power. It's not divided. It's part of the same. I didn't split the block. I kept it as one.
Western Power won't consider them to be two separate applications. They'll consider your capacity as one because they'll only look at the one master meter. And in terms of commercial or residential, Western Power doesn't really differentiate. They sort of have, so they've got a process which is, you know, less than 30 kilowatts of inverter capacity, and then between 30 and 150, then between 150 and a megawatt, and then above a megawatt. So, yeah, you'd be under 30 kilowatts of inverter capacity either way. So, yeah, whether it's commercial or residential doesn't really make a difference.
So, from my understanding of what you guys are saying, I possibly contact a solar company, even the one that fit the original, and then get an upgrade of panels and another inverter.
Yeah. So, how old's your system?
The house was built in 2018, so yeah, 5 years.
Okay. Yeah. Look, if and it's still the original inverter and original panels. Yeah. And it's still working fine, perfectly fine.
Yeah. As far to my limited technical knowledge, because I know there's a lot of people that you know are really good on sort of looking at their inverter and sort of matching the apps up with their car. You know, I'm kind of a little bit behind that, as it were.
Do you get a feed-in tariff? Do you get any money back? Do you ever produce surplus?
Yeah, it's minimal. If I could give you an example, like each bill quarterly, it's maybe $70 odd.
Because you'll also, if you go above 5 kilowatt inverter, you'll lose all of the rebate. You'll get no feed-in tariff whatsoever. Anything you dribble into the grid will be free for Synergy and others to use.
I think it's minimal anyway. That, as I said, $70 per bill, and I say I've got, you know, obviously there's a holiday accommodation, but my bills are still quite high. So I was looking at using more of that power. I'm just trying to sort of work out ways. I'd love to get a battery, but they still seem pretty expensive.
Can you quantify by what you mean a high bill?
Okay, so the last quarterly bill came in. It was like $894. It obviously didn't cost me that because I pay a monthly direct debit, but that's like, you know.
So what you should be able to do is see if you can apply for another 6.5 on 5. I mean, before you do that, it's worthwhile actually getting your data in half-hourly intervals and actually do a proper analysis as to what economically would be the most optimal system size. But just as a back of the envelope, you should be able to put in a. So I wouldn't talk about. I wouldn't be upgrading the existing system. I would leave it as it is and install a completely separate, another 5 kilowatt inverter with 6.5 kilowatts of panels. And you should get that through Western Power.
And you still think that would be like eligible for the rebate?
Well, you'll always get your STCs, your Small Technology Certificates, which is the it's not technically a rebate, it's a incentive, but yes, you'll get that. So that's on your panels. If you're talking about getting any money in terms of the feed-in tariff or the buyback rate, so you'll lose, as Harold said, you'll lose that $70.
No, it's more for that initial outlay. So when I built the house, it only cost me, I think it was $3,200 in outlay for that whole system.
Yeah, so it probably would have been like in 2018, probably would have been like a $5,000-6,000 system. So yeah, the STCs. So you'll still be, as long as you stay within. So 6.66 is 1.33 times 5. So a 5 kilowatt inverter times, or put it another way, take 5 kilowatts divided by 0.75 and you'll get to 6.66. So as long as you're still within that AC to DC ratio, you should qualify for the STCs.
And that, so my best bet from, like, as you can tell, it's not my field of expertise, is to get the solar company out and then for them to advise me.
Yeah, absolutely. So just a completely separate, well, I would be looking at a completely separate system for a couple of reasons. Number one, you don't want to be touching the existing system, especially by another company. So most reputable companies won't go anywhere near it because whatever work they do on that existing system, they could potentially legally be taking on any sort of warranty and be exposed to it. So they won't touch it. And because your current installer knows that no other reputable company will touch it, if you try and expand that system, they'll know that they've effectively got a monopoly with you, and they'll charge like rented bulls. So that's why you'd want to go for a completely separate system.
Okay. And this may sound like a stupid question to you guys, but just forgive me. So would it make sense to also fit another Tesla charger? So, because I've got 2 Teslas, I know I'll only charge one at a time, but let's say, again, with the holiday rental, I wanted to use 2, or would that make no sense at all?
It makes sense because you can simultaneously, rather than having to share, and move the nozzle from the left to the right or whatever, you can have 2 nozzles. You can even actually, did you only just recently buy, is it a white wall connector?
Yeah.
So, and it's hooked up to Wi-Fi?
I assume so. You mean the Tesla?
Well, I'll rephrase that. If you can easily get another one, you can actually get it effectively wired in parallel with the existing one, although it may still under wiring rules require its own circuit breaker. But you can actually, if you're a bit power limited, you can then actually get the 2 of them, provided that they are both connected to Wi-Fi, to your house's Wi-Fi at all times. You can set one as a master, one as a slave, and if there is one car connected to either of them, they'll go full power. And if there are 2 cars simultaneously connected and the electrician has set a upper bound to the maximum power the system can draw, then it will automatically share power to within that limit. And it's very convenient for a mere $780 plus installation cost to have 2 of them. In fact, you can actually connect 4 together if you really wanted to. So why not? It means that you get to use yours, your partner gets to use theirs independently.
It's more for the guests. I've not had anyone actually take me up on the offer when I advertise on Airbnb, saying, if you come here, also at least one of the Teslas, but also free charging if you've got your own electric vehicle. But no one's, and I kind of had the first one installed. It's on its own. The electrician put it on its own circuit breaker as well, just to be, I'm assuming, on the safe side. The practicalities of feeding that charger to the 3rd garage is kind of meaning leaving it out under the door. So to fit one in the smaller garage would be, practically great. But I just had no real uptake yet because I'm new to this and I'm learning, but I'm trying to push it as quickly as I can.
That will change. You'll probably find that that will change over time. But rather than buying the wall connector from Tesla directly, jump on or keep an eye on our Facebook page. There's a lot of people selling brand new ones for $700 or less.
The only thing about that one, Pete, is TOCWA specifically has a policy to not encourage those that procure free product through referral codes to actually sell them on any of our websites or Facebook page. Just that caveat. That was actually resolved in a committee meeting some months ago, that we don't encourage members or anyone to effectively sell goods they got from Tesla for nothing. So
that's how I got the first one. Anyway, to be honest, I bought it off of, but my understanding of that referral scheme is that that's ended now unless you've got a Model Y. Is that correct?
I know it's just changed. There's less points and everything's a bit dearer. But anyway, if we put that aside for now, what Pete was getting to about the take up, look, yes, you can say you've got a destination charger. If put this way, if you install a destination charger and spruik that as a feature for something that is otherwise high priced, then even EV owners, being fairly rational beings, we're not going to pay twice as much for a chalet that has a charger than one that doesn't. So it's a balance. If you've got a great product, I wouldn't necessarily bother to even spruik it has a destination charger. Look, you're in the southwest region. None of us need to charge overnight per se. It's a nice thing to have. It's a very nice thing to have, but it's got to match with the pricing of your product. And that's what's much more important than whether or not it has a destination charger. But by all means, if you want to get ahead of the curve as far as the competition in that area, then I mean, for the one-off price, look, you may go for a year and no one ever rents it who has an EV, and the next year you could have 50% occupancy with EVs. It's hit and miss. It's for you, since it's your business, as in a means of earning income. That's a decision that you have to make and deal with. Same as the solar and all of those sort of calculations.
Yeah, and again, the only reason I brought that question up is because it's, I'm really not familiar with any of this, and I know you guys looking at your page every day, you're kind of all over it. So I'm always willing. I want to learn, so I'm quite, that's, makes sense. You guys know this stuff inside out. So the more I can learn from you, the better.
Absolutely. Now we've got, we might come back to that a little bit later in the program, if that's okay, because we've got Tim. We've got Christian. Christian will be straight after Tim. So apologies to you two. But go Tim, and Tim, I know you're somewhere. You're in a secret destination somewhere up north.
Very secret. I'm in Broome. We made it to Broome. We didn't make it all the way to Broome in the Tesla. We made it to Karratha in the Tesla, and then we hired a hybrid vehicle. For those of you who don't know, which would be all of you, we're touring a show up to Broome, and so we're going through a company, and we couldn't quite make the retrofit the tour to work all the way to Broome with an EV, but we made it all the way to Karratha, and then we've got another show. So we've got a show here, and then we've got a show in Karratha. And anyway, so I got to test out some of the infrastructure on the way up, which was great, including the one at Nanyatara, which we started doing, and then it stopped working. And then that was we ended up just charging at the Roadhouse. But yeah, about 7 minutes into the charge, it just dead. And so we called ChargeFox and called Horizon, and then didn't get any answers that day. But then today I just spoke to a lovely chap called Dan, who I think a bunch of you know, and he talked me through the whole situation. Apparently, he said it's now fully up and running. It's now on the ChargeFox system, and they tested it a bunch of times, and I was almost able to help them out by being there just in time to help them test it remotely, but I was just one day too early. So yeah, we've and it was great. It was so it was very glad I borrowed the three-phase plug from you, Harold, because we needed it in at Nanyatara.
Can I ask a question on that?
It was great. Yeah, sure.
So again, very new to this. I only got the first one.
Me too.
My Tesla in September. I'm not interested in cars. Test drove one, thought it was the best thing I've ever done, and bought one. Now I've read lots of articles saying that you can if you plan it well, you can travel the whole way around Australia. So from what you're saying,
no, it's not possible.
Okay.
The 33 people that have already done it, I think it's all fake news, and it's a conspiracy to try and rid the world of fossil fuel vehicles. So it's not possible. I'm sorry, Kurt. We'll have to move right along. And actually, Tim actually isn't in Broome at all. He's in a studio that, like, there's that fan in the background. That's just part of the wallpaper. But yeah, actually, Kurt, we'll show you a couple. There is a list, and we'll show you that to you a little bit after.
Yeah.
So we'll just let Tim, if you've got anything else to say about that journey, and then we'll.
Well, firstly, just to say it was an absolute breeze getting to Carnarvon, and then there was just one. It was just slightly challenging to get to Karratha, but as of today, it'll be a breeze to get to Karratha. And then and I'm sure Harold and other people will say this, by the end of the year, it'll be an absolute dream to get from Broome and beyond all the way down to, I don't know, all the things. But once the EV charging system's on, all running, it's just so easy to use. It's so quick. The charging times are so elegant because it's time for a break and it's time for lunch, and before you know it, it's time to leave again. Like, it's just a non-issue. So we had a really easy time getting to Carnarvon, and a still pretty easy time getting to Karratha, and it will be easier on the way back down. My question was actually just around preconditioning the batteries before charging on non-Tesla superchargers. Sorry if I missed this already. I came in a bit late in case anyone's talked already, but is there any kind of trick to ask your car to precondition before using, say, a ChargeFox?
Yes. Now to preempt that question, the initial answer is you do not need to do it. So I've taken my car at various states of charge and a battery that's quite cool, and because of the, let's call it, not extremely high charging speeds, I've never seen my car charge slower because it's not warm. So the actual answer is save your money, don't bother. But if you did want to precondition, the only way you can do it in a Tesla is if the actual non-supercharger fast DC charger pin location is there, if you can actually see it, and navigate to it. And at present, not all of the locations, the non-Tesla sites, are on the map, but there are some. So for example, Northampton, off the top of my head, and Geraldton certainly are on the map. And if you navigate to the pin, that is the charger pin that's on the map, then if necessary, the car will precondition. But having said that, in my experience, no matter what the season is, you will not need it. And if anything, you just don't need to, is the short answer. But it can be done through the pin. There's no manual precondition button in the cars yet.
There is a sexy button hack, but yeah, that's another story.
That's an accessory, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, sure.
All right, what would do?
Okay, that's good to know.
Cool. Sorry, any last ones?
And just a couple of hopefully quick comments. I heard some people talking about the charge on solar. After the last time I was on, I did set that up. It is all working in the app, but I haven't really got it functioning very well. So I need to dive a little bit deeper in there. I don't know if anyone else has had any success with it, but it just seems to charge when it wants, as opposed to and just ignoring my charge on solar settings. So this has been a little bit disappointing, but hopefully it's just because it's brand new to Australia and it just will take a little bit to get all the settings working, or once again, I'm doing something wrong. And just one other bit of new info is because we took a Toyota Kluger hybrid and the Tesla on this because the hybrid was a support vehicle of the two vehicles, and so we're able to see how much it cost for the exact same trip with my Model Y and the Kluger, which is a very comparable sized vehicle. The Kluger is very fuel efficient, so but it did come in at about just over $100 more expensive, I think, to get from Perth to Karratha.
Cool.
You know, one way. So which was almost twice as expensive. So just for people who, just to try and quell some of the misinformation that might also be flying around about how much it costs to charge.
That's perfect.
And that was including no.
So go, Tim.
Oh, sorry, and that was also including the non-ChargeFox locations where it was a $15 flat fee at one place and a $25 flat fee at another place, which would have been cheap. So it'll be cheaper on the way back down.
And the good point is that is the worst case. You are actually paying for the premium fast DC charging rates. And that is, we've said that on this program many times that the rough metric is using the expensive fast DC charging. The cost of an EV is approximately half that of petrol. And if you charge at home, which is again about a half of that cost, it's a quarter of the price of petrol. And if you've got ample solar and the time to use it, it'll cost next to nothing, literally.
Exactly.
Awesome. Thanks, Tim. That's fantastic. I'm going to go to Christian and then Clark, and then we'll just address Kurt's outlandish question as to whether or not an EV really can drive around Australia. But go, Christian.
Thanks, guys. So good to see you guys. It's been a while. James was there before with his hands up, so I really don't want to take his spot. James, you all right?
Oh, sorry, James. I thought. Oh, no, James, all right. Yeah, go. So, go, Christian, and then Clark, and then James.
Okay. So I have three things, but I can cut off at any time. So a couple of things about. So the last time we spoke, we were basically planning a trip down to go over the Christmas break to Esperance, which we've done. Worked really well. There was a little bit of an issue in Esperance with the chargers over the New Year's period, but it got also resolved. So it's all the things whether they're just coming on the network with the software updates got resolved. But overall, really nice. To Tim's point, I think we did almost 3,000 kilometers, and it cost us, I think, $62 because we could charge at the campsite included because we had a powered campsite, and we asked, and they were like, no, we don't want anything extra. So fair enough. One thing that I wanted to ask you, two things related to that. I drove a fair amount on autopilot, and around there in Esperance, in that area, it suddenly the Tesla recognizes or thinks, even though it's 110 area, it thinks it's 80. And it will brake really hard, right? And what I find very surprising is, because in Perth I can sort of overrule it and go higher, I cannot go higher other than putting my foot down and sort of getting the speed with that and still have auto steer working. Is there any other trickery that Harold or other guys like you have that one can use to sort of get over the stupid fact that it just wants to read whatever or
you've got about three choices. One thing works rarely, which is to park the car safely off the road, get out of it, and get back into it. And sometimes this will come about if you go through a roadworks, and for example, there might be an 80 roadwork sign, and then there either is 110 or something at the other end of it, or there is no sign, or it misreads it, or it just misreads a sign at random. If you sometimes get park on the side of the road, get out of the car, sort of let it kind of lock itself, get back in and start a drive, it'll sometimes effectively pick up the default map speed for that area. The other choice is the one you described, which is put your foot down and let the car steer itself, or you have to wiggle off autopilot and just use traffic aware cruise control.
Okay.
So it'll do the speed to any speed you want. The big frustration with Tesla is, for whatever reason, in the city, you can override the speed limit in almost all streets to as high as you like. Well, actually up to 140, because that's the maximum it will do on autopilot.
Okay.
But it will not recognize speed limit signs going up or down. It will not automatically adjust that speed. However, in the country, it's the opposite. In the country, it forbids you from going faster than the speed limit or the offset that you set under the autopilot menu item. So in autopilot, you can actually set an offset up to 10 kilometers an hour. So for example, if it says 80, you could get it to go to 90. But in the country, it automatically recognizes increasing or decreasing speed limit signs and changes its set point to those new speeds, which I think is the opposite.
And sharp, not even I have usually 2 or 3 kilometers, the GPS speed is bang on. So and even that in the country, it ignores for that. So okay, then
you can if you pull down the stalk. So if you pull down the autopilot stalk for more than a second or so, if you have an offset set, it will abide by the offset. So for example, if it's 110 and you've set the offset to 3 kilometers an hour, it'll do 113 indicated. But to do that, you've got to just pull down the stalk, which then effectively tells autopilot to apply the current speed limit sign plus the offset.
Plus the offset.
Whereas the thumb wheel won't actually go higher, but pulling the stalk down will.
Ah, interesting. Okay, see, that I didn't know, but it would have probably not made much of a difference because essentially it was 110 and it really wanted to do 80, sometimes even less than that. And it's like out of nowhere, no sign, no misreading of sign. And we've done this, the areas a couple of times. It's always exactly the same thing. So somewhere in the
map, there's a glitch in the map.
It has, exactly. It just sort of thinks it's 80 over there, or maybe there was a construction site at some point there where there were 80 and it's like a legacy thing. Really frustrating. Okay,
exactly.
And then, one quick warning. Just one quick warning: when you're overriding the speed with your foot by pressing your foot on the accelerator, obviously just be mindful that the car won't brake. So autopilot won't brake because you're effectively overriding it with the gas pedal.
Yeah, I tried it. I basically chose option number 3 that Harold suggested, and basically I set the speed to where I wanted it to be and was steering myself. But it's kind of the perfect place to have that essentially. So it's kind of a bit sad that it that doesn't do it, but hopefully it'll get fixed in one of those updates. Speaking of which,
so 2 seconds. We got the fourth option, which Damo. I don't have an image of it, but Damo actually printed up full-size speed limit signs, and then got his daughter to walk in front of the car while it's stopped and in park or in drive, and show the speed limit, the 110 sign, and then the car would accept it. Optically.
Which camera does it need? Is it like the front camera?
Front cameras.
Okay. All right. Front cameras. All right. Okay.
So sorry,
your next point. Print the German speed sign and go a little.
No. He actually well, as a matter of fact, Damo on his post on Facebook had printed a 110 kilometer per hour sign and a Northern Territorian 130 kilometer sign. Wow. And I trust that the Tesla would read it and dutifully abide by it.
All right.
Not that I'm saying you should do it, but it would work.
Good to know. Similar to that is a short one. Now, if you've seen that Perth traffic lately, pretty annoying. And with the traffic, so I have the monthly charge for the $10 or something like this, where you get the live traffic. And I've seen it now a couple times there, where the route it sends me along, where usually that it's like this thicker marking, right? And when it's supposed to flow nicely, it's blue. And then when it's like less so, you guys know it, yellow, red, and then really dark red. And a couple times now where it sends me around, but it doesn't change the thicker lining. So you can see next to it that it actually is dark red or something like that. But actually the main line where it like sends me along says it's just all blue, even though it clearly is not. Have you guys seen that? Is there a way to fix it? Do we have to just restart it? It's pretty annoying. And sometimes, I mean, most of the times it works, but sometimes it just does not properly color. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it only colors the darker red bits if it's a big difference.
No,
but
it usually colors the whole way, like wherever you go along. Like it has this thicker lining, right? Which street you should going to take, and then has colored wherever it's like slow traffic, right? And instead of doing any of the coloring, it just has a blue line completely through. even though underneath, if you see a little bit offset, there's actually the proper color of like how quick the traffic is actually sort of underneath.
Might be a glitch. It might be something that they might fix in a subsequent update. Because I've seen mine where sometimes it has bits that are dark red, and then there's blue bit, and a bit further along there's another red bit. But then you're right, sometimes it doesn't show it at all, even though it is built up. Yeah.
Okay, so it must be a glitch. And speaking of which, the solar charge on solar, we've got that update. But I have to also say, like, one thing I'm happy, I find cool is I also have a Powerwall 2 now. So it's like you get the metrics of how the car charges in the Tesla app. What I'm really frustrated about, and I don't know if you guys have the same sort of experience, is like, what I like to do is sort of at the end of the night is like to release the remaining battery that I have into the car. So basically have whatever excess solar I have, or what is maybe also interesting for Kurt is like if you have the midday saver, or you have like 8 cents cheap electricity bunkered into your banked into your Powerwall or battery, and then release that. Ever since the Charge on Solar app is updated, the car will only charge in the night off of the grid and not take anything out of the Powerwall anymore. Really, really frustrating. Is that something you guys have seen as well?
Not many of us have it, I'm afraid. So I guess the problem is that would be yet another sub function to have that option of decant as much energy from the Powerwall to your car so that your house still will have enough once the sun comes up, I guess, function.
It worked before the update. So I should say that probably before. So before, it's like you say, like, I have a look at this and it's like, okay, I have probably like 5, 6, 7% left. I set that overnight and it like usually did that, not too high amperage. But now it's like, no, not gonna do it. Unless I go off grid. That's the other hack. So going off grid, and then it would do that until it is 5% and releases. Anyways,
Yep,
okay.
until the
Sorry
minimum.
for all the questions, but yeah, that's something, if someone has seen that and has a workaround, be very interesting to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. And if anyone on YouTube who's watching this has any of the information, please do comment so then Christian can read those comments and we can all learn from it.
Thanks.
Thanks, Christian. And Clark, super sorry for the late, long wait, but Clark, shoot.
No, all good, thank you. Actually, the question came up during Kurt's dialogue. Well, what's the difference between the Gen 2 and the Gen 3 chargers? I've looked them up and it seems as if the Gen 3 charges slower than the Gen 2.
No.
So I'm a bit confused about what's...
No. So specs-wise, raw specs, the Gen 2 and 3 can charge 32 amps single phase and up to, well, 32 amps three phase for that matter, but the cars can't take that. All the new Teslas can only take 11 kilowatts or 16 amps three phase. So in a three phase house, you can pull 16 amps three phase into your car. If you have a single phase house, you can pull 32 amps single phase. The two units, as far as that performance, are identical. The difference is the Generation 3 unit is slightly smaller in every dimension, and the cable is substantially thinner, which is nice. I do hope that with experience, and it's longer, I do hope, and we can only find this out through experience, that the Gen 3 cables are more hardy and less resistant to fracturing, which I am sad to report that the Generation 2 chargers, quite a few of them suffered from some failures due to the cable fracturing, or the parts of the cable fracturing. The old units were a little bit easier to interconnect because you could do it with wires. Now the new units need to be interconnected if you have a master and a slave using Wi-Fi. One advantage that the new units have is if you're in a commercial area, you can actually sell power through the chargers if you qualify for Tesla's retail scheme, which requires a number of chargers to be installed, etc. But there's no disadvantage with the newer one whatsoever. The output power levels are identical, so don't feel that you're getting an inferior new product.
Yeah, what Clark might be referring to is with the Gen 2, with some of the older Model S's that came with 2 inverters, that could actually charge at 22 kilowatts. So the Gen 2 can support those, but the Gen 3 can't, is my understanding. So that's maybe where you may be getting that from. Does that sound right, Harold? You seem-
Now that you say that, I think that is what I read. But you know, I'm a little bit like Kurt. I'm new to this. I'm reading stuff, and then sometimes I get to the end of an article and it's USA or UK or something. I think, oh, it's probably different here. But does that also mean that the Gen 3's got Wi-Fi and the Gen 2 hasn't?
Clark, sorry to interrupt, Clark. That's a very important point. I think what you've heard, Clark, is in the US, because the Gen 2s could pump out something ridiculous like 90 something amps, single phase, because, you know, in the States they have huge, well, it's split phase, but anyway, I think there is a difference between the Gen 2 and the Gen 3 in the United States, but I do not believe that there is an Australian difference, if you want to call it that.
Yeah, because I did find it odd, but as I said, I'm reading lots of different things, and I think sometimes I sort of, I'm reading something else, and then I realise it's not Australian. So,
if you're reading something on the Tesla website, it's worthwhile having a look in the top right-hand corner. If you're in the US or in Australia, or even in the web address bar, you look at the URL.
All right. Yeah. All right. Thank you, gentlemen.
Within the
No worries. And I'm going to follow up with you, Clark, for a second. I'm just scanning through the installation manual for the Gen 3 wall connector right now. But while I'm doing that, my eyes are off the screen. James, you had your hand up earlier. Once you get off mute.
You're off mute, James.
You're on mute. Sorry, you're still muted.
Yep, no worries. I've sent an image in the chat. That's my solution for the roadworks. I'll make it and sell it on Temu so we can all buy it. A red Tesla image.
2 seconds and just waiting for it to load up slowly. Was that 854? Yep. There it is. Here we go. We just double clicked it. Oh, very good. There you go. That's exactly what you do. Very good.
I think a magnet or suction cup might have to make it a bit aerodynamic.
No, we're going to get like a extendable sort of stick, and we're just going to like
selfie stick. Yeah.
Put it round the side, like through the front, through the front window, and then in front of the cameras.
Sorry, on that charger point, this is probably a really stupid question. Do I have the Gen 2 or 3?
You'll have the Gen 3. You'll have the Gen 3.
What colour is it, Kurt?
White.
It's a Gen 3. It's a new one. Okay, sorry. So James, was that all you had, or was that?
No, the other question was,
yes.
Kurt, like I'm off to Mark River on the weekend, doing a bit of a wine cruise. We look for an Airbnb.
Do you want some cheap accommodation?
I already booked it.
See, you're too late. I
we couldn't find anywhere. I know.
Dunsborough.
Now.
Beautiful.
And we're taking we are going from what is it, Wild Hops to Will, so we might call in on the way through. But yeah, you look at Airbnb, as soon as you put the EV filter on, suddenly you're in the $600,000 house range. You're not really going to bother doing that. It wouldn't attract me, I don't think. But the other question is, did anyone notice that last week, with the sales figures that came out, there's an article that was saying that EVs were 85% of the car market, that particular CX-5, Mazda 3 type market, and they're actually dominating there.
No,
and it's
that's
interesting that and this week Toyota have announced they're stopping selling the Yaris and the Corolla in Australia. They're only selling the hybrid. That market there. But I can't find the article anywhere.
To be honest, I couldn't care less what Toyota says, because most of what comes out of their lips are false. And they are a company that sell 10 million cars per annum at the moment. And I hope they sell much less than 1 million by 2030.
No, 100% agree. But
I don't think you need to hope, Harold.
Yeah, but it's interesting that a week after that, obviously the market is talking, because suddenly their cars in that market, they've just realised there is no market for those cars anymore. 85% of cars in that market in February were EVs.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And it's the way it's going to be, you know.
Yeah.
Now, just very quickly, I think it was Clark, you were asking about the current for the version 3. These are the specs. Clearly 32 amps, single or 3-phase. So yeah, it is literally the same as the version 2 as far as that metric's concerned.
So Harold, does it mean if you had like a second EV that's like not a Tesla, but it has a 22 kilowatt onboard charger?
Yes,
you could
it'll work.
actually
Yes,
use that
yes.
at that maximum speed? Brilliant.
Yes, but bearing in mind when you get, well, when you get the electrician to install it, you either let them set up the unit, or better still, if you get to set it up with it, you know, and ask them what they've set the circuit breaker to and what they're happy for it to provide, then you should. There's also a setting to have the wall connector either only charge Teslas as a brand, or all EVs. So Tesla has 2 ways of communicating via the standard J1772. There's another name for it, but anyway, the standard, the basic standard, or there's an advanced communication standard that Tesla only uses. So you might as well open up to all EVs, because after all, you might choose to buy a BYD Dolphin or Seal or something else.
Not going to happen, Harold. Just be realistic.
I'm just trying to be magnanimous, or at least appear in a very shallow sense to be magnanimous. But yeah, so you can just set it to open to all EVs.
Yeah. Look, even on here we have a very famous mixed EV couple. So we should be, you know, we should very much appreciate the fact. I think any EV on the road that's not an ICE, we're winning.
Any EV except for
I kind of agree.
Except for a PHEV.
I kind of agree with you. Yeah, but I wouldn't say even with the pure EVs, even with the BEVs, I wouldn't say any EV, I'd say any good EV. And the reason why I say that is because when you buy a bad EV, what it does is that person won't buy another EV for perhaps a decade or more. And they may sell it, and they'll tell 10 or 20 people that it was a piece of crap and they hated it. So bad EVs actually are a disservice to the greater cause. So I would say, you know, any Tesla is obviously a good EV. You know, some of the BYDs are great, but yeah, there is some rubbish out there as well.
Speaking of which, Jaguar has announced that it's shutting down the manufacturing of all its I-Pace model permanently in June, and they're actually rejecting current orders, and they are going to they think they're going to somehow restructure the company in 2026 to produce a whole 9,000 cars per annum.
You know, Harold, that is so laughable, because only this morning I was listening to a debate between a Tesla bear and a Tesla bull, but this was a debate from 2018, and both had a 4-minute introduction. And one of the points that the bear mentioned was that competition's coming for Tesla. They've operated up until now with no competition. Jaguar has just announced the I-Pace, and it's going to compete with Tesla's Model 3. So, yeah.
Okay, now, Kurt, you had the question about driving around Australia. So, as promised, here is a list. This is on our website. And the first person in Australia was Glenn George from WA in a converted MG in November 2011. And then you go down the list. The first person to do it in a commercially available EV was Richard McNeil from Sydney in September 2016. Then you've got a whole long list, and it basically goes all the way down to 33. So 33 people have done, well, it's been done 33 times by different
Harold. Yeah, I wouldn't say 33 people, because there is some nutter there that's done it 5 times out of the 33. So it's not 33 people. It's been done 33.
Some people are a bit stupid. And then just in case you weren't sure that it could be done relatively promptly, there's some person that's done it in 10 days, stopping at Nyanyatera, overnighting Nyanyatera, Broome, Timber Creek, Daly Waters, Cloncurry, Rockhampton, Newcastle, Horsham, Nullarbor Roadhouse and Perth. So that's 1,354 kilometres in 10 days. So,
and if
It's
you
a
want
hockey
to
rink.
hark back to the comments made earlier about the cost of doing these sorts of things, on our recent lap, it was $1,500.
and that one, that lap actually deserves some more recognition, and I'll just find it in 2 seconds. And that is,
But just for like comparisons, that $1,500 that Shane mentioned, that's pulling a caravan behind the cart. So
this is, yeah, this is 2 people we'll call Shane and Sarah, and they basically left on Boxing Day or Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
Boxing
Day.
Boxing Day.
Well, I left my place Christmas Eve. I left Sarah's place Boxing Day. So, yeah.
Boxing Day. In a Tesla Model 3, a rather old one, with 52 kilowatt hours of battery, and towed basically a proper caravan with actually a feature that most caravans don't have, Shane. And what was that?
It had a few features most caravans don't have, actually. Which one are you
That is
talking
true.
about?
It had a king size bed. It had a king size bed.
King size bed, yes. Yes.
It had a king size bed.
And a caravan from 1986 doesn't usually have an air conditioner either, or a microwave oven.
True.
Or batteries.
Or 15 kilowatt hours of batteries, or solar panels. So there was 1 or 2 things extra.
20 kilowatt DC charger.
It didn't have that, unfortunately.
It did. It was attached to it. Oh, no, wasn't it? Was that in the boot?
That was in the boot.
Okay, all right. I'll take it back. So there you go, Kurt. So, Kurt, you're muted. Kurt, you're muted.
You're right. Sorry, did that trip take 10 days and it cost $1,500 and they were towing a caravan?
No.
My different trips. My trip took 40 days, or we took 40 days.
Yeah.
And we were towing a caravan, and that cost $1,500. Harold's trip took 10 days, and how much did it cost, Harold?
Look, to be honest, I didn't actually totalise it, to be perfectly honest. I don't know. I do know, or I could look up how many kilowatt hours I used, and to be honest, the price of electricity varies greatly. So in parts of Queensland, the fast DC charger is at a cost that I believe is far too low, and that's at about 30 cents per kilowatt hour, and I think that's actually far too low. Through most of the rest of Australia, fast DC charging costs approximately 60 to 70 cents per kilowatt hour. So again, suffice to say that trip cost significantly less than half the equivalent cost of petrol. But there were quite a few locations where I stayed, so quite a few hotels hotels, roadhouses, where they didn't want money for the charging. They were just happy for you to be there for the accommodation. But again, it's not the point of what it cost. It's just the principle that it costs significantly less than petrol, which is a great thing. But it doesn't have to cost nothing for it to still be worthwhile. Just the experience of being able to sit in your car, or should I say, have your car sitting out in the heat and have the air conditioner running without you having to be in it, or the engine running, is a great killer feature. And the fact that in a Tesla you've got autopilot, and bearing in mind every single new Tesla that anyone buys, they all universally have autopilot for free, comes with the car, that you can drive long distances, which in any other manually driven car is quite taxing, in a Tesla is actually quite relaxing. and that's the big difference. So, 30 years ago, you couldn't drive 1,300 k's a day in a car and sustain that sort of level of punishment for days on end. You just turn out to be a blob of jelly at the end of it.
Another point to make, it's not like it's a competition as to who can do it for less cost. So when Harold and I did our laps, that was only last year, and still a lot of the roadhouses.
2 years, Pete. Two.
2 years. It's been 2 years already. Jeez.
2022. Well, 1.5. 2022.
Yeah. Yeah. So a lot of the roadhouses, like I'd go up and try and pay for the charging, and they would just say, "Look, sorry, I can't take it." And I'd say, "Look, I do want to pay something," and they would say, "Look, I literally don't have anything that I could put it under in the till." So what we ended up doing is every one of those roadhouses would usually have a Royal Flying Doctor Service tin, and we just put $20 in there, $20 cash in there. So, these places are doing you a favour there, and you don't want to stuff it up for the next guy coming after you. So, yeah, you always want to leave them feeling good, having had a EV driver come through their premises. So, consider the charging complimentary rather than free. And if you are, obviously try and buy some food or what have you. And if they won't take payment, even if it's $10 or something, to a Royal Flying Doctor Service tin goes a long way.
And a follow-up. So 2 seconds, Mark. A follow-up for that is in WA, for example, on the WA EV network. This map is slightly out of date, but these are all the locations. So all of Western Australia, and apologies, this map is wrong. That little bit here is incorrect, the location of those towns. But you will be able to drive continually from Kununurra to Perth via Kalgoorlie or Esperance or whatever, all the way to near Eucla by about August this year, with nothing more than a 200-kilometre gap between locations. So Mark Spear, go.
Yeah, sorry, Harold. I love driving my car so much. I'm going to go across the Nullarbor again in April. With the DC chargers now, Mundrabilla and Nullarbor and Ceduna, is it necessary to carry a cones cable still, or is it that's still a safety backup just in case?
Actually, to be honest, you don't need to if you've got something like a UMC, because that's the true backup. So a UMC, if for whatever reason the Delta charger at, Baladonia, or the Tritium at Kaiguna, or the Delta at Majura Pass Oasis, or at Mundrabilla, or at Nullarbor, if they fail and you haven't got enough to get to the next place, you can just overnight, and on a 10 amp or 15 amp UMC. The cons, we're really low on cons. I guess it's something that's always going to happen. There are a lot of people increasingly doing Nullarbor trips, and that necessitates a longer journey, because you're not going to go across you're not going to be some idiot that goes across the Nullarbor and back in a week just because. So you're going to go to the eastern seaboard for a number of weeks and then bring back the cons perhaps a month later or even longer. And we are critically short. Yeah, well, but you're an idiot, just like I am, Shane. Come on, we already know that. It's just the depth of the idiocy that varies. And that generally, like entropy, increases. But Mark, so we're critically short on cons.
Okay.
Hand on heart, it's not necessary, because the gaps are sufficient that you're not going to turn up, for example, at Nullarbor Roadhouse on 0 state of charge. So
I'm not that brave.
You'll learn that with skill. That's something that you'll gain. But yeah, you can actually transit the Nullarbor now quite reliably with nothing, with literally nothing. But I would always bring a UMC, which is the Universal Mobile Connector, the portable charger that everyone should have regardless of what you do, because it means you can always charge your car at a power point. And there are often more power points than there are even petrol stations. So, and even at 10 amps, over a 12-hour period, you'll gain at least 120 kilometers of range in your car overnight while you're sleeping.
Yep, thanks for that.
No worries. All right, Clark, yes, go hand up. So yes, go.
Just further to what you were saying, Harold, I understood that a lot of the chargers you need to bring your own Type 2 to Type 2 cable. Is that something, once again, I've misunderstood?
Not Nullarbor, because there basically at the moment are 0 locations with a Type 2 that require a Type 2 outlet, literally 0, except across between Ceduna and, let's call it east of Ceduna, well, inclusive of Ceduna. They do have a Type 2 rather slow 7.6 kilowatt charger as a backup in those locations. So it is useful to have a Type 2 cable if you're doing a lot of road tripping. So for example, when we look at the WAEV network, it actually is quite useful to have a Type 2 cable just in case the fast DC charger along this route is faulty for whatever reason. You can then use the Type 2 as a backup.
Okay. Thank you.
No worries.
Can I just quickly jump in before we move on?
Yes, Christian.
Just sort of what I found quite cool and interesting is the fact that Synergy offers the option to change your normal tariff from the normal A1 tariff that everyone has at 31 cents for the midday safer, right?
Yep.
I was first a bit apprehensive because it looks like, well, if you have a high usage at the end of the day, then obviously you're charged more to it. But to the point that Kurt and maybe others also bring is like, if you having trouble or like you're maxed out what you put on the roof, like current legalities, at 8 cents a kilowatt hour right now between 9 and 3 p.m. All right, so it is definitely something to consider, because the difference between like making up at 8 cents per kilowatt hour, making up that difference is it takes a really long time in order to pay back whatever you would put in terms of inverter and panels. I mean, I'm all for putting in more panels, but you have to balance out how difficult that is, what will cost you, and if maybe it's better for you to actually put in a battery to use the solar that you're making, and or filling your car really cheaply during that day if you're home, and then having basically for the expensive period of time a battery, and then at night you can use much cheaper again. So for someone that has a big energy bill like Kurt, it's something to definitely like talk to someone about that can model that, or you just download the data, half hour data from Synergy. You can get 30-minute intervals, and if you're halfway nifty with Excel or something like this, you can quite quickly calculate up what it would cost you to do either tariff. I wish Synergy would do the comparison for you. Maybe they will eventually, but that's something to consider.
The only quick issue there is that
you're saying there's a better tariff to go on.
It depends.
They don't do that. They're not. They're not going to do
really
that.
depends. Yeah. It depends.
And the problem too is, okay, so just in your specific case, Kurt, where you have, let's call them commercial customers. Well, they're your clients.
Mm-hmm.
If I hire your chalet and spend whatever it is, and if it's hot and it's 3 p.m, I'm going to slam on. In fact, I can guarantee you, I'm going to slam on your air conditioner, And in fact,
100%.
overnight, I'm going to have it at the lowest setting it can go, which
Yeah.
is between 16 and 17.
Yeah.
And if I slam it on at 3 p.m., between 3 and 9 p.m., you'll be paying 51.25 cents per kilowatt hour. But if, say, you have cause to draw a lot of power, say through an EV, if you've got a couple of days off during the daytime and you've got you use your car a lot, then perhaps the dominating energy consumption is your car as opposed to your house. So then, as Christian alludes to, paying 8.2 cents per kilowatt hour between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. could be an awesome deal, which far outweighs any other energy consumption that the rest of your house consumes.
Yeah.
Or if you already happen to have battery storage, you could do some arbitrage and actually fill your battery with 8 cents per kilowatt hour and draw it down between 3 p.m. and 9 p.m. at the 8 cents that you bought rather than 50 cents. There is also an EV tariff add-on, but to be brutally honest, it's a rounding error compared to the rest of the deal. So never go for that midday saver tariff because of the EV bit, because it's only a small discount overnight. You've got to make the rest of it work.
What I tend to do, and this is just with no science, just basics. I shift work, so I'm close to work. So as soon as the sun's out, I charge the car. But I don't know. You know, there's a guy local to me who knows exactly when he's charging his car, exactly what he's paying. You know, which is great. But he's more technology minded than I am. So I kind of just look at the sun's out, it's bright. I'll put the car on charge and charge it. So, but it was just trying to get kind of an idea, like what Christian was saying, what the best tariff is to go on. You know, and you're 100% right. I'm fully aware that my guests will, like I do when I go to Bali, leave the aircon on all day when they go out and ignore all the signs of please turn the aircon off. Because that's
because I'm paid money. I'm paying money for your service, and to be honest, I'm worth it. I've come here to be comfortable, and that's the deal.
Yeah, and I have no problem with that. It's just trying to work out for myself in between my times the best way. And I love the idea of batteries for more than the reason of saving money. Just I know we don't get many, but power cut. How great is that when I don't have to worry and try and find candles and the torch that's charged. But it's just that cost thing for me. They don't seem to be, especially the Tesla one, they seem to be holding their price and not coming down.
Yep, Kurt, there's
exactly right.
There's an app, Kurt, called Charge HQ.
Yeah, I've got it. I don't know how
to
to use it.
Yeah, it used to be free, but it's not anymore, I don't think. But that if you plug that in properly, that will charge your car only off solar if that's what you want it to do.
Yeah, I think, but the only problem is my Fronius inverter, when it was set up, the house was being built, and I cannot now connect that for some reason to my Wi-Fi. And I keep trying to get the solar company out to set that up because it's not connecting. But someone has told me about that app, and I've downloaded the app, but I can't get my Fronius app to work on my phone to connect the two.
Yeah, it has to be connected to Wi-Fi. It has to report, because otherwise they can't dial that in, right? It would have to. Your Tesla has to be on Wi-Fi, which I think it is anyways. Your inverter has to be in Wi-Fi. Or alternatively, if you have a power wall, then it basically also gets all that data, because there's the CT clamps, it measures consumption, everything like this. That would also work through Tesla now itself, Charge on Solar, or still even with Charge HQ. But
on that Wi-Fi note as well, where my modem is in the middle of the house, I struggle in the garage to get connection for the Tesla. I know I need to upgrade and get some extenders, but I've never been able to connect the Tesla to the Wi-Fi.
There is one tiny little reason, perhaps, if you've got a fixed channel, and I don't know if it's channel 13, but in Australia, we are permitted to have one extra channel, or should I say that channel is usable. In the United States, and look, it might not be channel 13, just have to Google it, but just in case, because many modems will automatically pick the quietest channel to broadcast on, and that can sometimes change depending on a changing environment. Or you can manually force it to be a certain channel number, And Tesla, being an American car, abides by the American standard, and one of those channels is specifically reserved for ultra short range devices of a special nature, which is not general Wi-Fi. And if your Wi-Fi, if your modem uses that channel, your Tesla will not even see it.
Right, yeah, and I can't find it when I'm ever in the garage. It says search for network, and mine never comes up.
Okay, well then if you're familiar with your modem settings in any meaningful way, just have a quick squiz and see initially if you just set it to auto. Just set the channel, if it's not set to auto, set it to automatic, and see if that improves the situation.
Yeah, I was looking again, like one of those mesh systems put in just to extend everything and getting someone in, because again, that's not my field.
Good choice,
you know,
Kurt. Good choice.
Yep.
That's if you have a big premise and you do a mesh network.
Is your Fronius also in the garage?
Yeah.
That could, I would say, that's possibly half your problem there as well.
Yeah, I mean, I know from my Ring camera that's outside, it struggles. It does pick it up, a very, very weak signal.
The mesh, coincidentally, I don't know if this is still current anymore, but I think it's the Obi. Is it the Obi ones? They're pretty good.
Yeah, they're
because
really good.
I mean, they're not cheap, but one of the features is they have their own separate backhaul, which means they talk to each other on completely separate spectrum, which means it's not actually gobbling up the throughput of Wi-Fi. Sometimes the extenders will actually use that actual part of that spectrum as the backhaul going backwards and forwards, which means the total throughput is less. But then again, having said that, your Fronius is going to have a throughput of next to zero, as will your car and even your wall connector if it's on Wi-Fi. You know, so it doesn't really matter.
Is there anyone you can recommend, or anyone on this site recommend for someone in that field that comes in and I pay to set stuff up, or
what's that computer thing where is it something for nerds? Oh, what's it called? Just Google stuff, Kurt.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Mine's a Covar or COVR. I think I got it from JB Hi-Fi or something like that. It wasn't terribly expensive. And
don't go for the cheapest one though. Yeah. I mean, have there are a bunch of reviews out there. Just read it, not just one. Read a couple. I had an Orbi before, but the prices have just really exploded. I've also something that you need to consider is my network really suffered because of all the Internet of Things devices. There's actually a limit on the router of how many devices it can deal with at the same time. So while Harold is right, like a lot of things don't need much throughput, but they still keep talking to the router. And if you actually count up how many things you have now, you know, you have your Ring camera, you have your whatever, you know, iPhone, iPad, or whatever, computer, Tesla. It goes crazy, you know, like everything. We have even some smart switches that are Wi-Fi. So all of them are clients. And some of them say like they can only handle 40 or 50. And if it gets to that, it gets actually also super slow and has connection issues. So definitely look for something that also future-proofs yourself within a reasonable way. So I had the Deco router. I think that's from, I forgot, DECO. They're also like on the higher end of things, but can also really recommend that. But yeah, just definitely look at something, especially if you have a bigger house, mesh. Don't do any extenders. Just go mesh. Just do it properly.
And again, it probably sounds like a stupid question. Would I go to a local computer company rather than me to install it for someone to install? Is that where you'd go?
Oh yeah, you could totally like ask. I don't know if like I don't know, in the US they had the Geek Squad or something like this. They would set something like this up. There must be something around here too.
It really is easy to install, mate. You go to JB Hi-Fi, you buy the thing. It's got one of those little instruction cartoon pictures in it that says plug this bit in here, plug this bit in here. the lights come on, job done.
Okay.
That's
fairly similar like that. But yeah, I think that's probably a couple of things out there. Just look a little bit around. If that is not your cup of tea.
No.
But yeah, definitely, don't put that off, because it's just frustrating if things don't work.
Yeah. Appreciate that, because that's what I need to kind of move on with.
Absolutely. All right, we're getting towards the end of the program, so we might just take one last or two questions or comments before we wrap this thing up. So has anyone got any last question or comment? Okay, well, in that case, we might actually...
It's not...
Yes, sorry, Clark, go Clark. Did you...
I was just going to check with you, Harold. Were you going to talk about getting from Adelaide to Perth and cables? Please?
Yeah. So very quickly, as was alluded to before, you can actually do it with 0 cables. But Clark, you're going to give me a ring tomorrow on 62623131, and we're going to have a chat. I mean, you're probably a bit easier to cater for because you're doing a direct trip from Adelaide back to Perth, so it won't take too long. So yeah, just give me a call in the morning, and I can go through that.
Okay.
The short answer is, look, if you just bravely just took off in your car and headed west, yes, you can basically do it without anything. But I wouldn't recommend it on your first trip. So it's always, you could also do it without a spare tire, because I've had one flat. Anyway, we'll have to tell that story another week. But except for the very last lap I did, the 5th one, all the previous 4, over dozens and dozens of thousands of kilometres, never ever needed a spare tire. But I did on the last lap, so I guess that proves the exception. But we'll chat tomorrow. Okay. Anyone else for a very final one, just for the next minute or two? Kurt, very quickly, Kurt, and then we'll go for a wrap up. Sorry, Damo, wait, go, Kurt, very quickly.
Just an opinion from people. I won't say which one. I work for a government agency, and I recently spoke to them in work, what with everyone pushing for carbon neutral, etc., etc. And it's a strict no way can you plug your car in when you're at work to charge it.
It all depends on their their fringe benefits issue. You got to be egalitarian. It's a bit unfair for an EV person to get what might be an unfair advantage at a workplace. But I'm sure that that's something that's flexible. Governments are all for it. Some government instrumentalities, others aren't. So now we'll quickly go to Damo, and then we're going to wrap this up.
Just a quick one, Harold. The Mandurah supercharger, the one that they were going to put in on Pinjarra Road, has there been any communication about that?
0. Literally 0. Radio silence completely. Sorry, Damo, nothing at all. All right, we really do have to go. So, Pete, how would you wrap up an awesome show like this? Bearing in mind that we're not going to have one next week. We're going to have a casual meetup, but there'll be another one in end of this month. Go, Pete.
As always, stay safe, stay sustainable, and stay ahead of the curve.
And the best way to do that is buy a Tesla, join TOCWA, and ask us anything about accelerating the world's transition to sustainable energy. Have a wonderful week, everyone. Like I said, look forward to seeing you at next week's casual meetup. And then in 2 weeks' time for another episode of Ask Us Anything. Good night, everyone.
Thanks,
guys. Good night, Harold. Thank you.